Welcome to the Reticle Up podcast, where I, Three-Gun Kenzie, will be interviewing competitive shooters, hunters, fishermen, archers, entrepreneurs, and outdoorsmen. Come learn with me as I interview people from all walks of life, in different disciplines, all across the world, from novices to professionals of all ages. No matter what, everyone has something they can teach you, so come join me on the journey. The Reticle Up podcast is produced in partnership with AmericanFirearms.org. American Firearms' mission is to recommend what works. We believe everyone deserves access to unbiased, helpful information about firearms, and our buying guides, product reviews, and learning resources are designed to help real people find the stuff that will work best for them. Check us out at www.americanfirearms.org. Welcome back, everyone, to the Reticle Up podcast. We're here actually live in, I think we're in Talladega still, right?
Talladega.
We don't really know. But I'm here with Luke Faust. So he's a master production shooter. He's actually Area 3 candidate, which we'll be talking about today as well. And he's a quality engineer at Federal. So a lot of titles that you have.
Yes.
And I still haven't met you until today.
Yes.
I don't know how it's possible.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Take a shot for every one of those. Anyways, how did you get into shooting? Where is your background for the gun industry and everything?
Where to start? I think
beginning.
At the very beginning. I think I was like 13, and I was in a friend's garage, and I got handed an airsoft pistol, like a little, like, I think it was a SIG actually, a little SIG.
Okay.
Like the Springer ones that you cock.
Yep.
And I was like, this is dope. What is this?
So you've been a SIG boy since?
No, not necessarily. I've been all around, but I was like, this is cool. How much? It's like $10. It's like done. Broke before I got home.
Oh shit.
But that was like the start of my like passion in the firearms and just, firearms in general.
How old were you?
Probably like 13.
Okay, you're a kid. Okay.
Just a kid.
Yeah.
But like that led to like, oh, I want to get another airsoft gun. I want to do this. I want to, and then eventually like year later it was like, okay, let me get a 22, and I'm nagging my dad, give me a 22, and then eventually it led into, I think, Glock 19.
Yep.
And,
like most people's first guns, Glock.
Yep.
It's always a Glock.
Yep. So yeah, not SIG through and through.
Right.
Do
you still have that gun, by the way?
No, I shot it until it was
toast.
That's
pretty cool.
And then sold it off to some guy who probably never shoot it, and then moved on. But yeah, and then when I was always interested in, so obviously, like, I guess I came from a lot of the, the tactical, and took those classes early on, and then I was interested in competitive shooting. I was interested in all of it, and I went to my first USPSA match, like, the day after my 18th birthday.
I love it. Yep.
Because I couldn't, like, my parents weren't the kind of parents that I see all these juniors who have their parents
and jealous, envy.
I'm like, dude,
your life is made.
Yes, like, that's sweet. My parents weren't necessarily like, I wouldn't say they weren't going to like drive out to matches and but they helped me. They bought me the guns because I couldn't buy them at that point in time. So they like, but it wasn't that kind of thing. So, but after, didn't really shoot, like, it wasn't the main thing. It was just one of many things, dabbling in martial arts, dabbling in, like paintball and airsoft stuff, dabbling with competitive shooting, with, all the different things. CrossFit, I did that for a long time too.
Do you still do the like defensive stuff then? Like CrossFit and stuff?
Lesser.
Okay. But that's your background.
Yeah. So, each one had, so I did like a lot of jiu-jitsu for a while, and then I got like a really bad staph thing that happened, and like it was really bad. Like I'd be hospitalized. It's like, okay, cool. Well, my many years of jiu-jitsu, I'll never lose those skills. I'll always have those skills. Yeah. But I can't like go back to the mats, Yeah. And so that kind of phased out the martial arts. I did CrossFit for nearly a decade, and I still do. Like, I still do to keep fit. And I coached CrossFit, and I worked at a gym, and kind of as a side job. You were going through titles. I was laughing because I have so many titles.
I was about to say, what else have we done here?
Yeah. That's like 3 of 10. But still do CrossFit. I have a whole gym set up in my garage and do that all the time. And
I want to know about the other titles. Like, that's where I'm off.
Okay, all the other titles.
Yeah, like, why not? So, what's some weird stuff you've done?
All right, so I'm match director at Osceola Gun Club.
Okay. Where's that for people that don't know?
It is in just suburb of the Twin Cities in Minnesota.
Okay.
So Minneapolis, Minnesota area. Do I look here? Or do I look here? I'm kind of sorry.
It's deerish. You can look at the deer review. Yeah.
All
Okay.
right. So let's see. Yeah, Osceola Gun Club match director. CrossFit coach for many years. COVID kind of killed that.
Yeah.
COVID, the gym, the owner changed the way he was doing things and everything. It was just like, I did that as a fun side job.
Yeah.
Like, okay, cool. I get paid $20 a class, but I really enjoyed it. I met lots of cool
You have
people.
to work out. Yeah.
Got to work out for free, and all that. And then like COVID just like took all the fun out of that gig. And I was like, no, not worth it for me.
Yeah.
And that also kind of corresponded with, as CrossFit became less and less of my life, the other thing that was always there but wasn't like the main thing, which was competitive shooting, became more and more of my life.
Okay.
And now it's like the main thing. So, let's see what else. I own a business, a couple businesses, so business owner.
About?
So I have Faust Systems, which is sewn chest rigs
Okay.
that I actually make.
That's pretty
myself.
cool.
And
Sewing machine?
Yes.
What?
Yeah.
I need a picture of that.
Yeah, I do. You can see what the final product is on my website, but I use I sew in my basement using very antiquated equipment, but
It works.
so yeah, and that would be everything. Obviously I'm an engineer in my day job, but that's everything from supply chain management to engineer design.
Did you go to school
Customer
for
service.
engineering?
Yes, I went mechanical engineer from Purdue.
Oh, that's impressive.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.
Good job. Okay, so going back to that too, let's go to 18 years old, whatever, with the Glock. I mean, a lot of people in the sport shoot Glocks and start out with
Yep.
that in general. I know you're definitely a SIG fanboy, I would say. Sort of.
Yeah, a little bit.
But what I want to know is the progression in the sport. So if you started out shooting, you figured out that you liked the sport, and then you like kind of dove in more, but then you still kept the same rig that you have, right?
Yeah. I don't even think back then. God, I think I had like a Blackhawk Serpa and like some Blackhawk Serpa mag pouches on just like
It got you in the game.
It was way back that, and then I've gone through a lot of different iterations of things, but a lot of them, how I said, the sewing thing, I started like making my own gear way back.
It's cool.
And so anything that was sewn good, I was making myself, and then forming a lot of my own kydex and doing a lot of that stuff. So pretty much everything, my ghetto homemade rigs has been from the get-go.
No, that's bootstrapping. That's something a lot of people don't talk about. So if other people are listening to this podcast right now thinking about getting started on the cheap or on what they could do and make themselves, like how easy is it to fold your own kydex and all that stuff?
It's actually like it's incredibly easy, but you have to like factor in like how much you want to mess with it. So considering how like dirt cheap you can get mag pouches and a holster, like on Amazon from like a lot of the Chinese sellers and distributors or whatever, you can do a belt rig for like $60, for whatever you need. So it's on one side, like if people are like, would you recommend building your own stuff? No, absolutely not. I built my own stuff because I'm really, I guess the engineer in me has to see if like, what if it was angled a little bit like this? What if it was like this? What if it was a little closer, a little farther, angled this?
You're a
this,
tinkerer.
Yeah, tinkering, exactly. And so in order to be able to tinker, I ended up making or tweaking a lot of my own stuff.
Yeah.
And so like with kydex, for example, it's actually like really easy, because at first I thought I'd need to have a press and I'd have this and that, and I end up like you can do it with a box cutter and a heat gun,
or in your oven.
Yeah, your oven. I actually find that the heat gun's even easier because I don't have to heat the whole sheet at once and be able to form it. Because typically, like if you got this whole floppy sheet, then you got to have like a kind of a press to put it in and do that.
And the vacuum seal.
And I had built the little press thing, but I found that it was easier for me just to like do one piece of it at a time. So I'd heat a fold and fold it over and then I'd heat one area and get the top and heat and kind of work through it. So that with a lot of the stuff I was making, I kind of did it piece by piece with a box cutter.
That's awesome. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
So, like, when you were getting started too, did you ever think that you were going to get into this kind of business and like sewing and then actually being in the shooting industry more and working at Federal? Like, was that in your plans?
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah. I mean, so, and we haven't even got to my other titles. There's other titles too.
Great.
But I was always kind of somewhat. I was always a tinkerer, always a builder, always a creator, but also always business minded.
Yeah.
So like back when I learned how to make kydex, I started making kydex things and selling them within I was going to, like, I think when I got really heavy, not even heavy into making kydex, but it just came one of my many side gigs. I was at school at Purdue, and we had a bunch of guys who would we'd go out and we'd do training with airsoft guns and do different stuff. And so we get these Chinese radios that no one made a holder for. And so I made a bunch of those and just started selling them out of kydex.
I love it. Yeah.
And then I had a kid who was an Indiana farm boy who, like, I met through that, but then he moved into the college house that's a whole other thing. I was subleasing out to 5 times the amount of people that were supposed to be living in that house. But he moved in there, and I started paying him, like, I'd pay him like $10 a unit for every kydex pouch he made, and then I'd pay $5 for material, and then I'd sell them for 20. And we moved, like, I want to say just like and then I'd do the same thing with radio. So that was just like one gig where, I mean, I moved hundreds of units.
This is wild right now. Right? I don't know if you're cheap, innovative, like
I'm just
a child.
scratching the surface. So yeah, kydex is one of the many things I did. And then when I go into, later, a lot of those little hustles made sense at the time. When I was only making, the best I could do was like $15 an hour in a job. You know? And now, making engineer salary or whatever, I look at a lot of those things that it's not really worth my time. Yeah. But God, there's money to be there's always money to be made. There's opportunity everywhere. Yep. And at least at that point in time, as a college kid trying to afford money for ammo or other things, like, there's always hustle.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm assuming the other thing that you did is got involved with your community level and like volunteered as an RO that paid for match slots. Like, how much did you get involved with that?
So I wasn't super, like, competitive shooting was just one little piece of the picture up until like 2019.
Okay.
And so 2019, I think 2019, maybe a little bit before that, but there was just one piece of the picture. So I was much more involved in other clubs and activities, whether it be Purdue Jiu-Jitsu or Purdue Krav Maga or Purdue, all those other clubs. And I would take kids who had never been exposed to competitive shooting, who were like, "Oh, I'm into guns. I like guns. Yeah, I have a Glock or I have this," and I'd be like, "Hey, dude, have you ever done this? Have you ever tried this?" I bring them out to a local, in Indiana, IDPA or a USPSA match or something, or just bring them out to the range for a training session. And but at that point in time, running matches wasn't even on my radar.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like ROing matches wasn't really on my radar.
Were you aware of it? Like, I think a lot of people get in the sport and don't aware that you do need to contribute or that there is opportunity to volunteer, right? Like, most people have no clue about that. They just think these people might be paid or that's just how they run it.
Yeah, at least at a lot of the clubs that I was going to, they were much, I mean, I would help. I wasn't a RO or SO at the time, but like, okay, cool. The commands, I know them. I've shot enough of this. Like, give me the timer, like tablet. It's funny, like the kids always get the tablets quicker than the older guys. So,
or the females.
Yeah. So
every time
helping run the tablet or do whatever. So it wasn't even I wasn't thinking about the long term or anything. It was just, in the moment, there's a job, let's get it done.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. So the self-defense thing really does intrigue me, though. How important do you think it is for people to actually learn how to defend themselves with their own hands?
Extremely. Like, I have, and I kind of glossed over that a little bit, but there were some incidents around my early teenage years in which made me understand that the ability to be able to defend yourself is very important. And then it also the might of the bigger, the stronger
Mhm.
than many.
Yep.
And the only equalizer to that force, and the greatest equalizer to that force, was the ability to be able to arm yourself.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
And so with that, there's layers to that. You know, like you can understanding from and you know I kind of dived into all the different areas. I just said, give me it all, and I'll figure out how to put all these different tools together.
Yeah.
I think the jujitsu stuff, or just understanding, you know, when you first get into that situation and you're like, okay, cool, I got a dude on top of me and I don't know like what's, if am I safe? Am I not? You know, if you're standing in a clinch, am I safe? Am I not? Like underhook over, what does all this mean? Is it okay? Is it, am I, and it gets you to a point because the I just remember a lot was like, am I okay here?
Yeah.
Is this a safe position to be in? And do that. I mean, even just a little bit of jujitsu, you start to have an understanding of, okay, you can relax, you can breathe. And then there's other situations where it's like, danger, danger, danger. You need to separate. You need to get away. You need to, you know. And so having an understanding of the positions, and then having a little bit of understanding of striking and the other martial arts. And I think that it's really, really important. But at the same point in time, to say that that's like I wouldn't, if you had to pick one thing, you know, to have, like, I wouldn't necessarily say just do that and don't have experience with edged weapons or with guns. Like, I feel like our world includes everything, and you have to have, I would rather have someone who has just a little bit of experience with everything rather than someone who's an expert at one.
And one edge training. So are you actually using like plastic knives and working on that? Like, did you incorporate that?
So yes. So one, I had so many cool, and a lot of times when you're in the opportunities that you're in, you don't realize how freaking awesome the opportunities are until you get out of school.
Yeah.
And so in Purdue, we have a bunch of college kids. Some of us were undergrads, some of us were graduate students, and you had so many opportunities to learn all sorts of cool stuff. So, and I what, like, for example, the guy who ran the jiu-jitsu club, I think he was a graduate student from Jordan in the Middle East.
Oh wow!
And there was no cost to any of the students.
Oh wow!
And he came in, and he reserved the mat space and whatever, and students showed up, and he never turned anyone away. It was just, kids can come in and he'll teach you. And he was a pretty high level practitioner, and he would teach. And you had guys coming in from like Purdue wrestling who were like just animals, just doing, you know, and it was just a fun thing for them. And then you had a lot of guys who were just trying to, you know, everything from nerdy engineers to every type of student and the blend, and we all learned from a guy who was just there for the love of it.
It's crazy.
And it was the same thing with all the other clubs and stuff I got involved in, where you had a guy who had some experience and he was sharing it with others. And then, you know, so I had, at that point in time, you know, I thought I knew stuff. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I knew a little bit more than the others about firearms.
Yeah.
And so I would bring them out and be like, yeah, I got some guns. You guys want to learn about this? Okay, cool. And one of my roommates was a farmer in Indiana. He owned some land, and we'd go out to the land, and I'd give them just firearms 101. No cost, no anything. It was just like sharing knowledge with each other.
Yep.
And when I look back on those opportunities were cool as hell.
Now you got to pay for them. That's the difference too.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, and like find the experts, and they were literally in the room with you.
And so with like edged weapon stuff, and I don't even know. I think we had some guys who had a little bit of experience, but we didn't have any experts. But we obviously had the jiu-jitsu and the clinch and the grappling and all that stuff. But we'd go into the mat rooms, and we'd have white shirts, like tight fitted shirts, like rash guard shirts,
like this
and
one?
markers. Yeah, a little bit. And markers.
Okay.
And it'd be, you know, set up different situations. You have a knife, you don't have a knife, he has a knife, you don't keep you, and then just, you know, set up situations and spar and see who gets stabbed and cut, and
that would be me.
Yep.
By my own self, though.
you come out of it with and it's a really gross way of learning.
Yeah.
But you come out of it with an understanding of like, okay, cool, we're done with the day of training, and all of our arms are covered. Like, where do you get cut the most? In the hands and the arms, because that's what's reaching out and grabbing. And so, like, we're like just covered in marker on the way up. And obviously, you have the other, but it was there was lots of things that were learned through that, and what techniques work and don't, and just through kids who knew a little bit,
Mhm.
experimenting and sparring, and
Cool.
yeah.
It sounded like, okay, I know you didn't. Do you want to talk about the incidents that happened that brought you to that place?
Maybe, sure.
You don't have to. if you
Okay.
want to.
Yeah,
Up
I
to you.
mean, yeah.
Okay.
Um, hmm. So in short, I was, and that kind of leads in, I mean, I don't spend much time thinking about, I try not to think about the darker things or
Sure.
whatever.
But there are people that have gone through probably
Yeah,
similar situations.
I think I was around, as 14, and I don't remember the exact specifics because I had like major concussions afterwards and stuff, but somebody had mouthed off to one of my friends about something, some girl, whatever, something, and he was trying to fight him and getting all up. And he was like 1 year younger than me at this point, and I told him to, fuck off or whatever,
Yeah.
Can I swear on here?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Um, and
Do it live.
and so I was a 14-year-old kid at this point in time, and I didn't have a full understanding of consequence and everything, but like I'd been in some fist fights and stuff, and just going through middle school
Yeah.
and whatever, and I could hold my own against other 14-year-olds and some 13-year-old twerp who was mouthing off like, "Get out of here, screw off, kid." And anyway, his older brother and a mob of dudes in like their 20s found me later, and like beat me to death. So I got dragged out of like a swamp later with like I was like unconscious, like completely, like it was like I was a Hispanic family. I remember they're all speaking Spanish. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know. I didn't remember anything.
Oh my gosh.
So I got in the ambulance. I remember the paramedic being like, "You should be dead." And
Oh wow.
yeah, so that happened. And it kind of, I looked at the situation that happened around that and looked around and said, all right, who was there for me afterwards, like during, before, afterwards, like you're on your own, like there ain't nobody, like the cops were like, shit happens.
Right.
Everybody's like, shit happens. The doctor in the ER, I don't even know who I am, like whatever, the doctor in the ER with the needles, like stupid fucking kid just sewing my face back up. And there was a lot of medical stuff that came out of that like I was messed up for a while. Like it was like a real awakening to like, in a situation like that, you are absolutely on your own.
Yep.
Your friends will not have your back. The cops will not have your back. The doctors will not give a shit. Your parents won't be there. Like, you're on your own.
Yep.
And so that kind of like gave a deeper reason and meaning for pursuing all these, like,
Absolutely.
all right, gotta learn how to do this, instead of, so that you don't end up in that situation again.
Yep.
With the other lessons of like, avoid stupid places, stupid people, and stupid things.
Yeah.
Which I violated all of those rules.
But you were a kid. The reason I bring that up, I think it takes, actually Kaylee and Mason and I were talking about, it takes an incident for us to want to carry a gun, or it takes an incident for people to wake up to all this stuff, right? Similar, I have a scar on my ear. I had my face sewn up as well, and that was a coworker, and been through the same thing. And that there's a lot of reasons why I ended up taking care of myself. When I turned 21, that was the first thing I did, is got the carry and concealed carry license, took the class, started training, because I am by myself. I've lived alone by myself for years. So there's so much that people don't see that we go through. And I think that was important to share.
Yeah. And it was cool to see, like, as I started reaching out for that, there was a guy in the area who I think 16 at the time, because I was so hungry for it because of that experience. Like I was driven for it.
Yep.
And I think, I forget like what my parents signed or whatever, but he let me start taking his like tactical handgun classes.
Oh, that's cool.
Stuff.
Yeah.
And I want to say like I couldn't get my carry. So I went to move to Indiana. You can get your carry permit at 18. Yep. So that was like a really cool factor for me. And then like my Minnesota one, you can take the class up to a year before you're 21. So like on my 20th birthday, I'm taking the class with, and so yeah, it was cool to have that those resources were out there, and there's people who, not even knowing my story, because I don't share that story ever.
Yep. I don't talk about mine much either, but I think if people are listening, I think that will make a difference in someone's lives. Is go get physical training, carry a gun, but it's not always to the gun point either, right? Like if someone's within here, you're talking about knives, you're talking about
Yep.
your hands, like all you have to even get to the gun sometimes. So
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
there's a lot. The greatest equalizer is a firearm, but then you still need to know how to scrap.
Yeah. And it's also just, avoidance is so, as I started learning more and taking those classes with, the tactical or the self-defense and the trainers and then doing, training with my peers on our own, just in training groups.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many scenarios where we can set up a scenario with, because I've trained with simunitions, I've trained with all, the federal force on force product more than simunitions, honestly.
Cool.
And in all these different situations, just avoiding it is like the easiest thing.
Yeah.
And then second is just being mobile.
Mhm.
Like, oh, something feels weird, just run away.
Leave.
Like if you can run fast,
Yeah.
and like always wear footwear that you can run. Because your footwear could be more important than your gun or your knife.
Yep.
And can save you from way more than your gun or your knife. So always be ready to run. And the worst, like the consequence of, oh, that weird dude just took off in a sprint out of the mall is like, that was weird. What a weird guy. That's such a low like consequence compared to like, oh, you didn't leave what it was a weird situation. Now somebody cornered you in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Whatever that situation could be.
So trust your gut.
Exactly. And just run away.
There you go. Well, I didn't mean to get in all that, but I'm glad we did.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, okay, competitive shooting world. So, like, you started in production, right? That was your first division, or no?
Yes, because I remember those Serpa magazine pouches. I had one of them. Like they were single, right? And so I had so freaking many of them on the belt. And I just put them on my normal belt, so you have belt loops. So it was like one, you had to have them behind the belt.
The belt, it was the hip bone, yeah.
So I had them like all the way back to almost my holster because I had to do them between the belt loops. It was terrible. But yes, I started in production.
Why? Do you hate yourself?
Oh, no, it was I had a Glock 19. That's all I knew and could afford.
Limited,
I didn't think I know that was a thing. I think I just showed up and the dude was like, "What do you got?" And I was like, "A Glock 19." And he's like, "Okay, production." And I was like, "Okay, what does that mean?" He's like, "Put 10 in your max." I was like, okay. And I think my first match, I had them in my pockets and my belt and like everywhere. I just had 2 pouches.
Same. I had a double blade.
All right, I got to get more pouches. And
somebody else signed you up for production. I'm so sorry. You could have been a limited shooter.
I love production now.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Where'd you start, like classification wise? Do you remember?
Oh, I was terrible, like D class.
Yeah.
I mean, at least no natural talent at all. 0.
Were you like a pretty humble guy though when you got started, or were you one of those people that came in thinking you're pretty good and then get in the competition world you're like, oh no?
I think pretty humble, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Realistic, like understanding that like I knew that I was able to operate safely and all that, but I didn't have any qualms about how good I was or wasn't.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it's 2019. That was a little bit later. Then how did you progress? Like what was?
Or no, that was 2008 when I started
in shooting.
So 2008.
Okay.
So when I turned 18 was 2008. 32 now. But 2008 was when I went to that first match at SCAPSA in Minnesota.
Okay.
And that's when they, the Serpa and that was all that.
Okay.
I did shoot. I shot mostly IDPA, I think, during the period from 2008 to 2019. I shot mostly IDPA and very, I wouldn't say infrequently, but like I didn't like dry fire every day. I didn't do. I would shoot. I would go through spurts where like I would shoot. In a month I would shoot every week, weeknight match, and then I'd go a year without touching. Not necessarily touching my gun, but not without competing. I was doing other things. I was doing CrossFit. I was doing martial arts. I was doing whatever.
Life.
Yeah, and going to school and start my career and all that stuff. And then in 2019 was when so I was working at Federal, and Casey Reed was like, "Hey, dude, I know you shoot IDPA not semi-seriously. You should check out USP." I'd shot it before, but he's like, should really give this another go.
Mhm.
And I came up to a match or so, and then I started right around the same point in time. They had the first ever Minnesota State IDPA championship,
Okay.
and I was like, all right, well, I know this, and I'm starting to do the USPSA a little bit too. Let me go. I'll go shoot this local one because it was all the guys that I'd known that I'd shoot, and I think I won. At that point, I was I don't know, I was maybe C class in USPSA, which is like master in IDPA. I think I was a master at IDPA, and I won my division in that, and I remember getting back, and one of the guys who I shoot with, his name's Ben Yang in Minnesota.
Mhm.
We were both shooting Walther PPQs at the time, so
I'm a Walter fan.
I shot the PPQ for many years. I think it was like 8 years with the Glock 19 and like 6 to 8 with the PPQ. I think 2012 was when I switched to the PPQ. And that's right when it came out.
Yeah.
I'm a left-handed guy, so like when the PPQ came out, it was like, oh sweet, I don't have to do all the weird stuff I have to do with the Glock Gen 3. I can just
Interesting, yeah.
be lefty.
Mm-hmm.
And so shot the PPQ 2012 through 2020, whenever Mason switched me over to 320. And he was like, hey dude, did you cash in your Walther money yet? He's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, we can get money for this?
Mhm.
And he's like, and he's like, yeah. And I was like, bullshit.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, you can,
Have
you
the
can
shooter
get money.
program.
And
Yeah.
I was like, doubt it, prove it. And he pulls up his bank account and shows me like a $750 deposit from Walther. I was like, no shit. Submitted like that I won my class
Mhm.
division, everything. Submitted right away. Signed up for the Wisconsin Championship. Started signing up for USPSA, like all over the place. Went around shooting Walther and doing the Walther thing.
Okay,
collected
Luigi.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right. I didn't make any because I learned very quickly that like I could do that in some like IDPA in the IDPA world.
Sure.
I could do that and collect some money. And then I go to the USPSA world, and I was C class at the time, so I did get a little
For
bit
your
in the
C class
USPSA.
win.
Yes,
Solid.
for my C class
Solid.
win, but a little bit more challenging. But ended up shooting my first ever USPSA major was 2019 Nationals.
Solid choice.
Yeah.
Wait,
So
was that in Prosper?
yes.
I was there working stage 2.
Okay.
There you
So
go.
then we
crossed paths.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I was still just shooting out of my carry holster.
Yep.
And I had my carry magazine pouch, but 2 of them, so 2 doubles. And
That's awesome.
yeah, and shooting the PPQ at the time, and then as I started, competing, like it kind of came at the right time where I was kind of CrossFit was becoming less and less of a thing in my life, which that was a huge part of my life for a long time.
Yeah.
And as I transitioned to shooting more seriously in competitive shooting, the amount of IDPA I was shooting kind of went down over time, and the USPSA went up.
They're directly correlated.
Yeah. And it's just a better sport if you want to take it really seriously and really compete. It's just a better sport to compete in.
Right. So what happened after the Walther? What gun did you move to? One you have now?
320. Yeah.
All right, you want to show the setup that you got here going on?
We
gotta talk about this.
Belt of the gun.
We want it all. I gotta tell you about this rig that he's got here, y'all. So
Okay, I'll start with the rig. Here's the rig. What part of it do you?
Cameras up here.
Okay.
Okay. Let's talk about this duct tape situation and
bottom.
Yeah, what's
So
going
this
on?
is all Comtac, and I think this isn't the first holster I bought, but the first like real holster. Oh god, it might be. No, maybe. I bought a Comtac. I bought Comtac stuff, and I just keep, as I change guns, I just keep heating it up and reforming it.
No, you don't.
Gun and light.
No,
Yes.
you don't.
This holster itself has gone through probably 3 or 4 guns and at least like 5 or 6 different lights. I think it's for like an O-light something, but it's gone through a TLR1, a TLR7, 9, and now the lock light.
You don't recommend this though for people that want like actual retention because you have this little strappy thing that holds it on, right? Right.
Oh,
doesn't actually like keep it in there if you're like running. Probably not.
You asked me what I do. I don't know about recommendations for others. Yeah, so there's my compact that's been heated a lot, and my compact pouches that you screw them in more as you change magazines.
And as you shoot more, you just like duct tape.
Yes.
You know?
Duct tape on the bottom to make sure those latches don't move. And then if you don't like the angle, you can cut little wedges out of plastic in order to change the angle. Like I know Henning makes some really cool stuff to do that, and other companies do, but that was my way. But then you got to get longer screws. But the key with longer screws is you don't want to have to like experiment with like what lengths you need, because then you got to buy like 5 bags of different screw lengths. So you just get the really long screws and then you cut them until they're the right length.
How do you cut screws?
With a Dremel.
That's not a tool I mess with. I've already cut myself this year. We're good.
Yeah. So
normal humans don't do that.
So yeah, that's the belt rig.
Oh my word! So when production change or rule change in front of the hip bone, you obviously move that.
Yeah. So I used to have everything, obviously no magnets and everything back behind the hip bone, and then I just.
Do you like the change?
I'm less of a I don't have much of an opinion on it. I genuinely don't. It's like, just tell me the rules and I'll play by the rules. And when they did that, I experimented, and first thing I did was take some mag pouches, put them in front, start playing with the angle. And I'm a data guy, so I was doing a bunch of reloads and do 20 reloads, measure the time, do 20 reloads, measure the time. And, I found that I could get like, we're not even talking tenths. We're talking like maybe hundredths of a second on average across hundreds of loads better. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll take my 1% and go home with it. So
that's awesome.
So yeah, moved them up front. But when I shoot IPSC, I just drop the front two, and then the third pouch is like my first pouch for IPSC. So it works out.
Okay, and then the gun.
Yeah.
What did Mason make you buy here?
So Mason would be horrified. He hates this gun. This is it's just a stock SIG slide with Dawson sights, and then it is a Merzon grip module that Gray Guns did for me with silicon carbide, and then I added some more silicon carbide, and the lock light painted black.
That doesn't actually work, right?
What's that? The lock light?
Yeah,
it does. You see?
Oh, how many lumens we got here?
3. Maybe 2.5, 3, something like that.
Okay, so how much weight does that add, by the way?
It's 7 ounces on the lock light, and then I have the Shooting Sports Innovations tungsten thing in here. That's another 3 ounces.
Look that up.
Yeah, the slug. Yeah, in there. The cool thing that sold me on the 320 is that just being able, like, I don't necessarily love the trigger. I like the PPQ's trigger better.
Yeah.
But the ability to, for me, and some people are like, I don't care what the gun's shaped like. The texture is the most important thing, or this or that. For me, it's like the shape of the grip.
Okay.
And the 320's ability to just be like, oh, you don't like the shape of the grip? Well, here, $30. You can swap it out for something else.
Yeah.
You want a small, you want a medium, you want a large. You want the X series, this. You want aftermarket, whatever.
Yeah.
And that was really cool for me, and was like the selling factor.
Yeah.
Like, okay. And then obviously, there's lots of handguns, whether it be the Glock, the Walther, or the SIG, that are reliable and work.
Absolutely.
I shoot a lot, so they all break too.
Yeah. Yeah.
They all wear out and they all break, and they all have their own quirks.
Absolutely.
So
I think that's what's frustrating in the sport is people bash your firearm. It's like every single firearm is going to fail at some point. Just when. There's not an if. It's when. Okay, so let's switch gears and talk about why Area 3, like running for Area 3 director. What made you think about doing that? Like, how did that progression come to where we are now in 2022?
So I really appreciate and recognize the people who give back to the sport and support the sport. And like, when looking at, going to matches, the ROs, a lot of them are older. Like whether just acknowledging the facts, like the people who run the sport are the older generation. They're providing for the younger generation. And also acknowledging the facts that most of the high-level competitors and most of the guys who are chasing the top are all younger guys, 20s, 30s, 40s, and then that transition kind of happens in the 40s. Yeah. So I had seen my progression through the sport as like, hey, right now I train my ass off. I'm training, I'm dry firing every day, I'm live firing every day, I'm training to be the best. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, cool. I don't have to worry about any of this stuff right now.
Right.
I'm gonna just, whatever the rules are, that's how I'm gonna set up my rig. That's how I'm gonna do the stuff. And then later in life, when my body can no longer deliver,
Yeah.
I'm gonna give back, and I'm gonna make sure that what the dudes who are enabling the opportunities that I'm enjoying now, like I can do that for the next generation. And
You did it a lot younger. So you're deciding a lot younger.
yeah. Like I'm recognizing that that's the eventual path.
Sure.
And so it was always not necessarily Area 3 director, but just in general, like it was always in the long-term plan to become more involved in sport, not only in this organization, but in other organizations. And I have to a certain extent already, and just teaching people how to shoot or, running, coaching CrossFit, running matches at my local club, doing things that I can in a more limited capacity. But as things continued to escalate, if you will, within the USPS organization to the point that it was actually affecting, like, okay, cool, I go to nationals and I don't have a place to sit or food to eat, or nationals, like I go to my first nationals prop group, it's awesome, like it's everything was awesome about it, and then like I'm hearing about how cool St. George used to be in Vegas and this and that, and like then every nationals I've been at since has been in Talladega.
You're going to be, though, right now in this moment, excited and surprised about Southern Barbecue. I'll just say that. Like he did a really good job with, he's got coffee on the range, breakfast burritos, lunch was like tacos one day, like regular tacos. The next day was brisket.
I think I had a Philly sandwich at A6 from him. That was amazing.
It's amazing. Yeah. But he changed up the menu every day. And like that was the thing that I got sick of as an RO, was the same thing over and over and over again. But long story short, too, at the award ceremony, it was crazy on the microphone. They go, "Hey, anybody want thirds?" And I'm like, "Oh, we've made it to thirds!"
Wow.
Like he did really, really good, and he took it very seriously. And I think that's an improvement. And that's something that, like, we hear about the negatives. That's for sure. Do we ever hear about the positive? You haven't heard about that yet, have you? Because it was phenomenal.
Yeah, no, I haven't.
But anyways, okay.
So, and then the straw that broke the camel's back was the bands. As the bands started coming, because I saw people speaking out about things.
Yeah.
And you had, the Cameo situation, which I work for federal, and there's any kind of misdemeanor, anything
it's
is
a big deal.
Absolutely
we
not
have police
okay
officers, we have people in the military, and they physically cannot go, and they shouldn't risk that. That's their livelihood.
And so
I think it's ridiculous that people are taking it lightly and not respecting the people that really can't take it lightly.
Exactly. And then you have like my friend who I mentioned earlier, Ben Yang. He's he's a Chinese citizen who's here going to school or whatever. Like he's like, well, I can't go. Like that's like instant deportation. Instant.
It's not funny, but that's real.
Yeah. And so that was just kind of a shitty situation that they put a lot of people
in.
And so that was like the start of the build of me being like, this is I joke about the food but that's really not the big stuff. The big stuff is Cameo.
Yep.
And then the people even at that point in time, I just sat back and said, all right, we'll see how this plays out. I might have to buy some 10-round mags. That was kind of, because I was a production shooter.
Yeah.
So it's like,
you're fine.
You might have to buy some 10-round
I ain't going there for people. Good Lord.
And then there's obviously people who weren't as in the situation I was and decided to speak out more about it. And I saw them speaking out. It's like, yeah, dude. Thanks, I appreciate it. Like I don't have time to deal with this shit right now, but I appreciate you doing it. And then they get banned for it.
Sure.
And then I started to feel like, what if I had spoke out? Would I have gotten banned too? What if I speak out now? What if I speak out about it? And that was kind of the fire for me of like, okay, you got to do something. Like you can't. Like I wouldn't. I can't sit in a room and watch wrong happen and not try to do right.
Yeah. Makes sense.
And I was sitting in the room like, is anybody going to do this? And no. And and it was like, okay, cool. Like, all right, I'll step forward. And I've never been afraid to be that guy to say, all right, cool. I'll lead. I'll take the step forward and lead and try to change them.
Yeah. So when does that I don't know, candidacy start, campaigning start, voting? I don't know. Is that next year?
No, it's coming up real soon here.
Okay.
So if you go to my website right now or my Instagram, so I'm Faust9057 on all social media.
He's gonna work on content.
Okay. We'll talk.
Oh no, he's gonna work on content.
But and then my website, faust.systems/area 3, that has the schedule of the election.
Okay.
And it was that schedule, just for me to put together, I extracted that out of bylaws. And it took me like 6 revisions to get it right.
Yeah.
It's so hard to read the bylaws and understand. And I put that out because like people were asking me, because I announced my campaign platform and that I was running before I even knew what the schedule was. I was just like,
I'm gonna do it.
I'm doing it.
We'll figure it out later.
And you know when you're like holding the click button, let's say over like buying a big purchase or something, and you're like, ah! You know, that was like how I felt, like clicking, like, okay, I'm doing this, and like putting it out there, and then figured out the schedule, the actual. So the voting starts November 14th, 15th, middle of November, and runs through middle of December. And so it's actually coming up pretty quick here. Yes.
Okay, you gotta do some more campaigning, bro.
I'm working on it.
Okay. All right. So give me your list of things that you want to change or that you would take initiative of if you were voted area director.
So the campaign platform number 1, 2, and 3 is free speech. The completely against the bans for, you know, and not only I'm not close with any of the guys who got banned.
Sure.
I don't know them personally. I've gotten to know, like I've met some of them, and we're acquaintances, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But not personally. Complete complete review of that system, complete restructuring of that system. It's currently ripe for abuse and is being abused.
Yeah.
Number 2 is financial responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And just looking through, you know, the budgets right now and how money's being spent and how things are being managed. It just doesn't. I'm not an accountant. I run my own personal finance.
Yeah.
And from just my limited experience with understanding personal finance and money, and I feel like I'm pretty good with that aspect of things. I'm an engineer. I understand numbers.
Yeah.
You know, and I look at it and I'm like, oh my God, there's lots of things that just don't smell right.
Yeah.
And then the third one is transparency. You know, if you're not communicating with your members of what's going on and they're gonna assume things.
Yeah.
You know, and they may assume it as it is, and they may assume other things. But you got to be transparent, and the lack of transparency was kind of astounding to me coming in. Like I remember before I was even involved in any of this, I was sending emails to Sherwin and just going into darkness, like nothing, you know, no response, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And that wasn't really, that I didn't feel great about that, but transparency as far as recording board meetings, putting that out, eliminating executive session abuse.
Are you going to go to the member meeting then at Nationals?
So I went to a member meeting, and I watched the recorded member meetings since then and other ones.
Because they didn't live stream or record the last one.
Yeah. So after a couple efforts on member meetings, it was a unproductive enterprise and have stopped. You know, I'm competing. I'm focused on competing while I'm here.
Yeah.
Like for me to spend an evening doing that, with really no return. No, probably not.
That's fair. I was just wondering.
Yeah.
So I mean, like I've seen the positives and negatives with people putting memes out or putting stuff on social media. Positive, negative, it is kind of very exhausting. Like, what can we as shooters or as a community that are members do better though, as well?
What do you mean?
Like instead of just complaining or instead of just, you know, bashing, like you're stepping up in a way, or like you're volunteering, or you're still trying to be positive and not bring so much, I don't know, down on the organizations, because there's good to it.
Yeah. So I think you have to. It's like stepping back in the bigger picture. You have to look at different people and their personalities and your utility. And you know, there's some people who are instigators, if you will, or the people who are going to yell and scream the loudest. Or I think I used the analogy. I don't know if it was on another podcast or just in a conversation of, you have that kid who walks around with a lighter and he touches it to everything to see if it burns.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's how you find out what burns and what doesn't.
Yeah.
And so I don't think those people are bad or whatever, but they also they can bring to light and spread the message to people like me, for example, who you've been through my social media apparently, or the non-existent social media I have. And you can see that I'm not someone who puts out any personal detail, who speaks out about anything, who really does anything other than business online.
Yeah.
And they, you know, them doing what they do can bring light to bring light to issues to people who don't necessarily act like that or do those things, but are going to act and behave in other ways to help fix the problem.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, that's fair. I mean, I think that the social media platform that you've got going on, you need to be more of like, are you a shooter? Are you a coach? Are you a mentor, a teacher? Like, what do you do? Who are you as a human being? Because I was just so like, who is this guy? It's really hard. Now I know you.
I
Now
can't
you
just be
are.
an idea. I can't
No,
just be principles.
not in 2022. That's the harder part. You got to contribute. That is part of too. I think USPSA and the Second Amendment, and a lot of that is being active and having a voice online.
And that may be part of my
Learning.
Learn.
Oh, I've already absolutely.
The idealist in me and the I would rather people know nothing about for me and vote for me based upon my ideas
Sure.
and the merit of my ideas, not because they like me as a person or because they know this.
Oh, I agree. You should not be voting whether you like someone or they'd be good for the business, the organization. Like that is huge.
And so, there's a balance to be had there.
Sure.
I definitely agree. There's a balance to be had. We'll probably disagree on where that balance
Fine.
is.
The medium would be nice.
Doing podcasts like this and stuff is part of me finding that balance and
Yeah.
being willing to be a human and not just a set of ideas.
Yeah, you got to be like live stream, Q&A, podcasts are great, but having more presence there that's where we are in our whole community, unfortunately, right? A little bit social media. Is there anything else you want to add to that we haven't asked you?
As far as the
campaign, or I just USPSA as an organization, as members ourselves, like how we can do better, or volunteer or give back or whatever that looks like.
Yeah, I guess there's a couple other tenets of stuff that you obviously have the three main things that I kind of pointed out in my platform, which are things that I look at the org right now and I say, I have big problems with this, right?
Yeah.
On the other side, I think that, and one of the things that I put out that it's on my website and everything is a different way of leadership and a different way that I do leadership, whether it be in putting together the House for Nationals or doing different things that I do. This house. I know.
They voted on the house.
They voted on the house. They voted on
their fault too. You can click the link. You can see the photos. You can look at the reviews. You can look it up on Google. There's a lot of things.
Bingo.
And that's a lot of work. You know how hard it is to find a house and like enough beds. And
I spent
it is bullshit.
Lot of time.
Agreed. So you know what? They can do the legwork next time.
Yes. So with that, I guess I just see leadership differently. Instead of being I don't see the leader as the decision maker and the dictator.
They should be the doer with the team, just like everybody else, and be contributing.
I see the leader as being the one that helps organize and say, with the one who steps forward and takes initiative and say, all right, guys, we're going here. Here's house A, B, and C. Here's a poll. Pick which one you want, And you need a leader to be able to have that initiative
100%.
to take that. But the leader doesn't need to make that decision.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I intend to approach a lot of things within managing and running Area 3 and obviously the board of directors position in there. And there's examples of that on my website already as far as, okay, the Area 3 match. Like, all right, here's the system for how potential match directors who would want to host Area 3 would put together. Here's the template from everything from how many stages, aerial image, location, your proximity to airports, your all the way down to your budget stuff, everything. Mm-hmm. Put together the proposal, and then I organize and make sure everything's good, and ask questions and fill in the gaps and whatever, and then present those proposals to be voted on by the membership, so they can say, hey, this is the one we want to go. So in Area 3, you have the big debate about Grand Island. Like, some people are like, it's the greatest thing ever. Some people are like, God, I hate driving to Grand Island. And you may within my circle, I can see a split, but maybe there's some people within some circles who they think that everybody hates Grand Island, or they think that everybody loves Grand Island.
Yeah.
And I'm a data guy. I'm an engineer. Like, well, let's find out. Let's make sure everybody has a chance to vote and see what happens.
How unfortunate is that, though, that we have 33,000 members and like 7 voted in the presidency? Do you remember that? It's something pretty sad.
Yeah. So, like, are you the Area 3 election? The last Area 3 election was 600 votes, I think, total.
Bad. I know.
You have the people, as long as everyone has the opportunity, the people who are most invested and who
Are
the
yeah.
people who are gonna vote the most and or be the most active.
I would be curious though, if that is representative of how many people are very active and going to major matches or would even know the candidates. You know what I mean? I don't know what that number is. I'd be curious. Like 33,000 members, how many are actually even shot one match a year? How many shot 10 matches a year? And really know what that looks like.
I would be willing to bet that, and I don't have this data. Now you're making me think of ways I could mine this data.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd be willing to bet when you look at you're like, oh, that percentage is dismal.
Yeah.
But if you started looking at the percentage of the membership which attended a level 2 match in any given year,
Mm-hmm.
or even multiple level 2 matches in any given year, and what is the percentage of them that voted in an election, I bet the numbers would be staggeringly high. Especially how you say, okay, one level 2 match. Well, a lot of guys will just show up to their their local section.
Right.
But if you made that like how many shooters that attend nationals voted, I bet you'd be at like 99%.
For sure. Yeah.
And how many shooters that maybe didn't attend nationals but attended more than one level 2 match, you'd be at like 95%.
I would hope so. Yeah. And then how many people are just local little level 1s people?
Yeah.
But I don't think that we do a good job on the platforms either of like showing like who the candidates are. Not unfortunately, but sort of, is that it takes podcasts for you guys to have a voice and have a platform, be able to talk about your stuff. For a lot of candidacies, like even the presidential, if you remember, they were on like talking to Bill Dudoff. Like he did those random interviews as well. So I'd be curious if we could do a better job of meeting the people for like, I just met you and we've shot in a million matches, and how is it taking this now? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, at least how I'm learning as I go.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have any intention of doing this until I just said, "Fuck it, I'm doing it." And
You're welcome. That's my signature line. Go ahead.
You do have a lot of opportunity to like on the website you put together your bio and everything, and
Some do, some don't.
I guess, yeah.
Some had pictures, some didn't.
That's an opportunity.
That's insane though. That it should be a requirement.
I don't think it should be a requirement.
Absolutely. You can't just have like a circle face and have nothing.
So you know how I am about social media.
I don't care.
Don't even want to put my
I don't
face.
care. You need to. Well, then you shouldn't be the president of an organization if you can't even put your face out there. Not wrong.
You know what I'm saying, though? Like, I didn't want it to be like, why did...
You have to.
I get it.
You absolutely have to. If you're in politics, period, which is what you're looking at,
yes,
you're going to have to figure out, you don't have to put everything personal, but you need to have a presence.
So with that, you have an opportunity on the website.
I don't trust someone that doesn't. I don't trust someone that's blank. Who are they?
Because you have to have the accountability. I understand. So you have the opportunity on the website. You have an opportunity to put ad space in the magazine for free.
Yeah.
And then from there, like, it's being a leader is about initiative.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need I don't find it to be a necessary for the org to lay out, all right, candidates, here's all the steps that you need to do. It's like, no, dude, build your website, your website, build your social media presence, build how you want to convey your message, build the system. Because as a leader, you're going to need to be able to be familiar with building systems and learning new things. And I've never ran for anything before. Sure. Figure it out.
We have so few people running for certain positions. I know me looking at some of the organization stuff is that that doesn't look like a fun position to be in, to be honest, because people are going to hate you, people are going to love you, people are going to be unhappy with you. Like, why would someone want to be in the limelight right now in this organization when they're looking at people's personal addresses, showing up to people's work? Like, there's certain thing that's very concerning.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I don't know. Good luck to all of that.
It's yes.
Because the people running, I mean, like you said, you figured it out. Like, you can put up a website, you can do podcasts or whatever, but there are so many people that shouldn't be running that don't know how to run a business, never have run a business, never, you know what I mean? Like, can't put together a website, can't even delegate. I just wish we had more options or more people.
Hopefully the voters can pick properly or see that, and then you pointed out some of the reasons why the position is not desirable.
100%.
And so when things are, so you have an unpaid volunteer, undesirable position, and you're like, hey, why don't we have more
great people? Yeah.
Yeah. you're gonna get people who the only people you're gonna get is people who are extremely passionate
Yeah.
about what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I have a lot invested.
Or retired.
Or yeah.
I mean, there's like.
I guess
but
that's
yes.
the other category. At least speaking for myself,
Yeah.
extremely passionate about the sport. Love competing in the sport. And want to see it be successful and grow and provide a good experience to its members.
That's fair. Is there anything else you want to add while I have you on this podcast?
We covered a lot there.
Yeah, I know you put your website and your handle earlier, but do you want to leave that one more time for people listening?
Yeah. So Faust 9057 is on Instagram and any other social media. I guess I'm probably not. You'll probably tell me all the social media I need to be on or not on. And then Faust.systems/area 3.
That's awesome. Thanks for joining me spontaneously. Hopefully I didn't make you uncomfortable too much, but thanks for sharing your story too, and thanks for sharing your platform. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, listeners. Tune in to next week's episode of the Reticle Up podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Reticle Up podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Follow along on social media at Reticle Up or 3 Gun Kenzie.